The Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed away this morning, according to a statement issued by his family, was the first person in American history to mention gays and lesbians on the national political stage during his electrifying Rainbow Coalition speech to the Democratic National Convention in 1984.
America's more like a quilt. Many patches, many pieces, many colors, many sizes, all woven and held together by a common thread. The white, the Hispanic, the black, the Arab, the Jew, the woman, the Native American, the small farmer, the business person, the environmentalist, the peace activist, the young, the old, the lesbian, the gay, and the disabled make up the American quilt.
Welcome back to Yesterqueers. My name's Amanda, and I'm a public historian of queer history. The Honorable Reverend Jesse Jackson was a titan of the civil rights movement, and you're going to hear a lot about his extraordinary life and career over the next few days. But one thing you may not hear much about is his fierce, decades-long advocacy for the LGBTQ+ community. When Jackson ran for president in 1984, AIDS was ravaging the queer community, and President Reagan still had not said the words HIV or AIDS. Nationally, the AIDS crisis was still being treated pretty much like a punchline, and as a deserving fate for those who dared to be anything other than straight or cis. And in that political climate, Jesse Jackson not only made LGBTQ+ rights central to his platform, the first presidential candidate ever to do so, he also built a visible infrastructure of staffers and volunteers. And it wasn't just a stunt. Jackson's advocacy ran deep. This was more than 40 years ago, and yet every single one of his policy addresses included calls to end employment discrimination, to increase funding for AIDS research, and to lift the ban on out gay people serving in the military. He even visited and slept in AIDS hospices in both Illinois and Texas in an attempt to shed light on the men who were, quote, experiencing the two-tiered assault of physical deterioration and political ostracization. But of course, when the New York Times profiled Jackson's campaign in 1984, they left LGBTQ+ people out of the Rainbow Coalition that Jackson was trying to build. The head of the Human Rights Campaign wrote a scathing letter to the editor in response. In 1987, Jesse Jackson co-led the National March on Washington for Lesbian and Gay Rights, marching alongside other high-profile LGBTQ+ allies like Whoopi Goldberg and Cesar Chavez. Throughout his 1988 campaign for president, Jesse Jackson continued to highlight LGBTQ+ issues, to show up at rallies and vigils, and to give interviews to queer media outlets. Although he lost the nomination that year to homophobe Michael Dukakis, Jackson did not back down from his belief that discrimination against one group is discrimination against all of us. 6 million new voters registered with the Democratic Party as a result of Jesse Jackson's 2 presidential campaigns, and he used that leverage to push the Democratic Party to be more inclusive and more representative of the American people as a whole. And he continued to advocate for queer people to be equally protected under the law for decades, lending his voice to the fight against California's Prop 8 and speaking out frequently in favor of federal marriage equality. Touré even interviewed him about it for Time magazine in 2012. Jesse Jackson believed that politics should be about identity, and he gave people permission to embrace their own overlapping identities, Black and queer, Christian and queer. In one of his most famous speeches, he compared marginalized groups to patches on a quilt, too small to be effective individually, but powerful when bound together by a common thread. That's it for today. As always, more information, including sources and further reading, is available in the usual place.